Chris. I'll share my screen. There you go. Hey, Chris.
There we go. How you doing?
Pretty well. How about you?
Uh, I've done better, but that's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, that's good. Um, I, it's a little bit more relaxed because there's only a few of us on the call. And I know there's a bunch who said they were going to watch the recording. But this is to make up for our senior mentor Zoom that we're supposed to have October 10th, I believe the date was. But unfortunately, we could not because of Hurricane Milton. We're very fortunate that um, it didn't cause too much damage here in America. We did have
Good.
some flickering of powers, some flickering of internet. Surprisingly enough, today and yesterday has actually been, I believe, because they're working on everything out on Marco. Internet is kind of spotty on our end, but hopefully nothing too major. As always, if you're having any issues, just send me a text. I got my phone right here in front of me so I can look at those. What I was going to cover and still is very applicable today is senior essays, resume comment on FAFSA and senior year. It's similar to what I shared on last time, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into so everyone can kind of know. As everyone knows, Anita and I work very closely with the seniors. We review essays, Common App, uh, FAFSA applications. We work with the parents, the students. We work with siblings who filled the FAFSA out before, and now the sibling needs the information. So we do a little bit of everything. Uh, with the senior essays, what I will share with everyone, it can be difficult for the student. So what sometimes happens with the high school students, if you've seen their senior essay, they are not sure what to write. They're not sure what to say. So they end up creating word, I call it word vomit because it's really just every thought that they have in their mind. No flow, no structure, no nothing. They just put it all on a page. So we take that, we find what hopefully their main idea will be, like what is it that they want the school to know. And then we elaborate on that and we get rid of the unnecessary so that we can have that substance. Um, with the students, sometimes they're still unsure what they want to share. I Anita and I sit down with the student, we talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever the student needs to find something that they want to share. The best way to approach it is asking your student and saying, you know, a college admissions representative is going to see your resume, they're going to see your transcript, so they know your classes, they know your grades, they know what you've been involved in. Outside of that, what do you want them to know? That's something that really can make an essay unique. So, for example, yesterday we had a student who, like I said, had the word vomit and she wasn't sure what to share. So she talked about who am I? And then she rambled on for almost 2 pages. So we sat down with her, we talked to her, and she revealed herself saying, you know, that's just a cover story. I feel like my real story is just a little too embarrassing. And we got to talking and finding out that the reason she wants to become a doctor or work in the medical field is because of a show called Doc McStuffins, where it shows a young Black girl who works with her stuffed animals and animals in the community to help out. And that really inspired her because she said, I want to be like that one day. And it's like that kind of approach where it takes it away from, you know, just the general level, like the surface level, and brings it into a story that really reveals who you are. So that really, really helps. Um, they're really funny. Uh, so it kind of helps with the students to kind of think about it in the form of a speech. My biggest recommendation to all the students is always read it out loud. You'll hear what you sound like, and you'll hear where it's awkward, or it doesn't make sense, or you use too many words, or you're kind of repeating the same thing you just said. So I tell them walk in front of a mirror, read it to yourself, or record yourself on your phone and then play it back. How do you sound? Those are the best ways to get the student to find their edits. And I always, if they send you a copy of their essay and you want to mark it up, by all means, give it to them. What I tell all the students is you don't have to take every edit in the world that everyone gives you. If you feel like that's important to you, keep it in there. If you feel like it's not, take the recommendation and take it out. Restructure the sentences. From Anita and myself, they're constantly getting edits back. So, for example, David, with Manuel, I think I've read his essay 6 or 7 times at least. He's almost there.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, he said he was. He said
yeah,
he's working on it.
yeah, and he's almost there. And Chris, for Caesar, I think I've read his through like 3 or 4 times. So I can only imagine Anita probably has read them at least double what I've read them. Meredith for Jocelyn, she's coming along great. So is Faustina. Um, Stacy and Jennifer, you guys are coming along good too. It's a constant process. Yesterday was the application deadline for UCF. So we actually had in all the students who were interested in the University of Central Florida. We had them in the lab, we had them working on it. Some of them actually took a lot longer than we expected. So Anita and I were in there until about 5:30ish. Keep in mind, we had them since about probably 2:15, 2:30ish. So all that time dedicated to that application. It can be difficult. Sometimes the students get frustrated. Sometimes they'll delete their whole essay because they're like, I'm tired of reading this. I don't like it anymore. And we try to get students not to do that because then they're starting from scratch to instead just make small adjustments at a time. But you never know what the student's facing, so sometimes they'll get that kind of frustration. But what's really great about it is that at the end of it, they feel proud of the essay they have, and then they use that as a base for all their scholarships in the spring. They'll take pieces from their senior essay and elaborate, or they'll copy and paste it because the scholarship may say turn in your senior essay. Whatever it may be, that senior essay is a foundation to senior year, and I would say it probably takes the most time out of anything besides FAFSA. But once it's done, it's like there's so much weight off the students' shoulders that it's amazing to see. We had one senior who we probably went through her essay, I think about 10 times. And in her last round of edits, it was just small, like a comma here, a period here. And we're like, Rose Angel, you're done. And she's like, got the biggest smile on her face. And she's like, oh my God, thank goodness. So it's definitely a good feeling when they're done. It takes a lot of work to get there, but it's wonderful to see once they're finished. Any questions on senior essays before I move to the next thing? All right. Resumes, Anita has been, so what the students work on is a portal called Canva. It's a great resume builder because it kind of lets you structure however you see fit. She created the templates. I believe I shared those with everyone during the last Zoom meeting. What she does is that the students are able to share it with her. She logs into her Canva profile and she's able to edit them directly. So that way the student can get those edits all online, and the next time they log into the portal, they're able to see everything that Anita recommended and they're able to make those changes or those adjustments, or if she put a recommendation in there for them, they're able to see that. Sometimes the students have too much information, sometimes they have too little. So Anita helps them find that balance, because the bullet points are important, but we also don't want those bullet points to turn into a paragraph or only have 3 or 4 words. So recommendation to all your mentors is talk to your student about how to brag correctly. Because once spring rolls around, if they have any scholarship interviews, we want them to brag about themselves in the correct manner. So if you get to talk to your student about that kind of aspect, please do. Those are always interesting to have because students don't realize how great they are, especially ours, how much they've gone through, how much they struggled, because everyone in Amake has gone through that. And it's like they're saying it's the normal, it's the usual. And it's like, no, what do you mean you traveled as a migrant student between May and June of every year, or May and October of every year? You went to 3 different schools in one school year. You lost your parent at a young age. You had to travel between here and somewhere else every year. And they think it's normal because everyone in Immokalee kind of faces that. And it's like, no, it's not. Brag about yourself. That's really good to know because they know how hard you worked, how far you've come, and what kind of person you are. And so talk to your student about that because it's amazing to see. You'll see a lot of it in their senior essay, but when it comes to saying it out loud, they don't want to do it. And they feel like it's, what's the word a student used the other day? They called it cringy, that they didn't want to brag about themselves. And they're like, that's not who I am. I was like, it is because it made you who you are today. And that's what people want to hear. That's what they want to see. And that's where they'll take the chance on you and be like, you know what? We want you at our university, or we want you to have our scholarship. We want you to go farther. So it takes them a little getting used to, but talk to your students about that because it's a great thing to see. Um, with the Common App, like I shared last time, it's one application for all their schools. Right now, what our goal is for Anita and myself is for all the students to have in their Florida school applications in by November 1st. That's the priority deadline for a lot of the Florida schools. For all of our partnership schools, our goal is to have them all in and submitted by November 15th. With these dates, we also intend to have in either their residency or their transcripts or anything else that the school may require in by those dates. So what I shared yesterday, with some of the schools, originally they had the deadlines as October 15th for FSU, for FIU. Because of Hurricane Milton, they actually pushed all of those back to November 1st, except for the University of Central Florida, which required it yesterday, and that's why we had those kids in. So we're working with all of them on.
So Daniel, Manuel says he's applied. Does that mean he actually has finished the applications and he's got those applications to 9 schools already? Or does that just mean he wants to apply?
So for Manuel, he was able to get the one for University of Central Florida in. He still hasn't submitted the other ones, but that's also because we told him don't submit the other ones yet.
Okay.
And Immokalee High School also does what's called FSW, Florida Southwestern State College, instant admission day, sorry. So this morning at Immokalee High, my team and I actually went to go support as well. For the entire day between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., Immokalee High School all has representatives from FSW, FGCU, MSU, and USF. They had those representatives in there helping the students not only apply to FSW, but complete FAFSA or Color Community Foundation scholarships. So they're all in there and they instantly find out whether or not they were accepted to FSW. Manuel was there, Caesar was there. I believe I saw Bianca and Paulette. Sorry, all my screens went blank and I thought I lost everything. But this is where they'll get to apply to FSW at the high school. The counselors are there, so they're able to provide the admissions representatives with their transcripts, and they will find out right then and there whether or not they were accepted, because most of our kids are doing what they need to do. They're instantly accepted, and they have FSW as a backup. On our end, we also have all the students apply to FGCU as well. It's a close school, it's a great school, and provides a lot of financial aid. But they'll fill these out, and because we try to follow the early action deadlines, they'll find out from these schools earlier than most students will whether or not they're accepted. If your student says they're applying early action or early decision, the difference between them, early action, they're just applying earlier so that they can find out early. Early decision is only for one school, because if they're accepted, they're committed to that school. The only time we ever have a student apply early decision is if it's their #1 dream school. It's, say, a highly selective school, because those kind of schools will also provide a full financial aid package for our students or low-income students. So they'll end up having a full ride scholarship to that university. That's the only time we'll ever do that. Otherwise, we'll do early action with them. If, say, for some reason something's going on and they miss those early action deadlines, they'll go into what's called either rolling admissions or general admissions. That's just the general date for everyone. They have until, I believe it's like March 1st or something to apply. But those responses take a lot longer to hear back from. So that's why we try to follow those early action deadlines so that most students can find out before January ends. In some cases, for example, North Central College, who came out to present to the students, once they have their materials in, because of our relationship with them, the students will actually find out within a week whether or not they were accepted. So the turnaround is pretty quick and pretty great to see. And this way, the student feels a lot more comfortable. What I will also share is that when it comes to our students, they tend to be ahead of the curve with everything that they do at a monthly high. Their friends will say, you know, I haven't even done my senior essay yet, or, you know, I haven't finished any applications. And then our tutors are like, well, they got us working hard and grinding every single day. I'm almost done with it. And, you know, it kind of feels good for them to say that to their friends because it's like, you know, I'm ahead on everything. Like I don't have to stress. It can also be a double-edged sword because when they're hearing from their friends that they haven't even started, they feel good about themselves and they may relax a little too much. So Anita and I keep pushing them to have everything done. FAFSA, as of right now, it should open on December 1st. Anita and I have our fingers crossed. You never know. FAFSA was crazy last year and hectic. We're hoping that that's not the case this year. I was speaking with a representative from MSU at the high school today. He had his fingers crossed. He said, I have prayers out there that nothing happens like last year. So we'll see. You never know what the Department of Education is going to pull. So our fingers are crossed. We help the students, we help the parents. I believe we even have a partner with VITA that helps parents who are having issues with their taxes finish their taxes as well. And Anita's even been able to schedule a few of those as well. So the FAFSA will get it in as soon as we can. So with those on the call today, what I wanted to do is share the students' colleges that they have on the Common App. So I will stop sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, David for Manuel, right now he has Florida Atlantic, FGCU, FIU, FSU, Miami University of Ohio, Syracuse, UCF, UF, and USF.
Yep, those are the ones that he's told me about.
Okay.
So
Chris.
we've been all over that.
That's good to hear. Chris for Caesar, he has FGCU, UCF, USF, and Flagler College as of
All right.
right. Stacy, Jocelyn has Miami University in Ohio, UCF, UF, Arcadia, FAU, University of Miami, and USF. For Faustina, give me 1 second. She's on a different tab. Right now, on her Common App, she has FSU, Mount Vernon Nazarene University, and USF. I know we've talked about more schools. She just hasn't added them to her Common App yet, but she's adding them.
Hey, Daniel, can you read Caesar's again? I think I missed one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, Stacy. I meant Meredith. Sorry. Yes, for Caesar, where did his go? I just had it. Oh, FGCU, UCF, USF, and Flagler College.
Okay, got it.
And Stacy for Vanessa. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I was just gonna ask you.
Been a long week.
Yeah.
I know Vanessa completed the FSW application today. She should get accepted, no problem. Oh, that's right. We're having trouble with her Common App, so we got to get access to it, but I can share those with you once we get into those.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jennifer for Bianca, she has, she has Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU, FAU, FIU, UCF, UF, USF, and Florida and FSW. And she was there today, so she should have gotten her acceptance. And I'm not sure if she got that, but for the mentors watching the recording, if you want to know your student schools, let me know, and I can send those out to you. I will share, this is one of the years where I've seen a lot more students interested in in-state versus out-of-state. That may be the case up until they go and visit the school, and then they're like, okay, I feel more comfortable leaving the state of Florida. What I've seen from a lot of them and heard from a lot of them is they're a little bit scared of leaving their family. We see that every year. This is just a year where we see a lot more of where we've seen a lot more of it. What you can see from your students is that what we always share with the senior mentors is that sometimes the student may feel guilty about leaving their home. They're leaving their siblings behind or they're leaving their parents behind. In most cases, most of the students have had to translate for their parents. So they feel bad about leaving that responsibility up to someone else because they used to be the primary role. In their siblings' case, sometimes they'll be the person taking them to their practices or their activities or picking them up from school or dropping them off at home. Whatever the case may be, they also feel guilty about leaving them behind because they're the ones who used to take care of them. What we always share with the students is that you can do a lot more good for them in the long term by getting an education, by going to college, and then coming back and then giving back to them, rather than trying to do FSW and FGCU on a commuter basis. It's better for them to dedicate that time to school, finish school on time, and that way they can come back earlier. Because if they're trying to commute, that may run into where they end up having to take more time in school, taking 5, 6 years. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're able to get it done on time within 4 years, then that's the best situation ideally. Most students will do is we'll sit down with them and look at their financial aid packages as well so that they know they can attend their university and not take on debt. For the last, correct me if I'm wrong, Anita and Bob, I believe it's the last 2 years, we've been able to send our seniors out with not a single student taking out a loan from a university. So their financial aid package has been through scholarships, grants, maybe a little parent contribution, but absolutely zero loans.
But you mentioned that this year it seems like more students want to stay close. So I know that's Caesar. I mean, is there a reason you think this year is different than other years, or?
Nothing off the top of my head. I'm not sure if you can think of anything, Anita. It's hard to say because it fluctuates. There's a year where we had 10 students all from the very beginning interested in going out of state. Another year where none of them want to go out of state.
Who? I think we lost you.
Yeah, you froze.
Yeah. It was interesting because Caesar really enjoyed his time in Ohio at the university and all that, but he said it kind of convinced him that he wanted to stay in state, so he wasn't ready for out of state life.
It's weird. I can't get. I mean, Manuel could go to any school he wants to, basically, with his marks and his focus on extra stuff. And frankly, he just wants to stay in state.
Yeah, no, that's
He's
how
a
Caesar,
student.
and I think it is a combination of family and everything else.
I
Even though
think
he
it
said he
also-
really enjoyed his time in Ohio.
So I think it helps if friends go with them out of state. Like I know with Katie, she's got a couple of friends, and it's completely like a completely different experience. They don't feel like they're completely on their own. I mean, she's thriving in Illinois. That
Yeah.
Joanne from last year, and I just look at how she's grown, and I just wish that Manuel could do that, but that's not his gig, and I'm not going to push him.
Right.
Sorry, got kicked off the internet for some reason, and everything shut down, and then everything just popped up randomly. So, technology is funny. But I did just want to share two more things before we wrapped up our Zoom. So last Friday, the 18th, our juniors and our seniors got to participate in Leadership Day. Let me share my screen of what we did. So this wasn't in my original slides that I sent out to everyone, just because of Hurricane Milton, it was up in the air of whether or not we were going to be able to host the event. At the time, it was a possibility that it was going to be pushed back to the spring. but we ended up scrambling, doing a lot of work, but we are able to have it. So Leadership Day, our juniors and seniors were able to participate in it. We got a panel presentation from a few career professionals, and they were able to hear from them about their career, ask questions. We were able to also do an etiquette presentation during lunch, so they got to know when the fork and knife are wrapped up in a napkin, what to do with the napkin, put it on their lap, how to eat with the fork and knife. Some of them were still a little bit confused. I always say that for me, growing up in Immokalee, it's because I never used a fork and knife. I used a tortilla to wrap up all my food. So, it's kind of hard to break that habit. But they got to get a little bit of a demonstration for soup, for salads, and for meats. They got a keynote speaker from Anand Varadhan, who works in the biotech industry, who gave a wonderful speech about his livelihood and how he grew up. And then they went into their workshops. The juniors got to hear about networking and goal setting from some career professionals. So they got to hear about those. And then our seniors got credit from Joe Scondotto because, as we all know, all seniors want to buy a car as soon as they get their license, and they don't really understand it. And then they got to hear about self-branding from Claire Miller, about the image that they put out there on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and how they can use that to their advantage, how they can create accounts and set them to privacy settings so that when they're interviewing for different things, they're not out there in an image that they don't want. They got to dress professionally for the day. We ended up doing the Leadership Day kind of like a conference. The reason being is students in college will have trouble going to. Okay, sorry, I thought I lost everything again. So our students in college will have trouble going to job fairs or internship fairs, or to the teachers, or to office hours with their professor, because they're just not used to these kinds of events where they're walking up to different people, introducing themselves, and starting to do work. So the way Leadership Day was kind of set up was similar to a conference. We even talked about next year getting those little ribbons to put on their name tag so they know what it's like to almost like going to a conference. But Leadership Day went very smoothly. The students did a great job. We ended up running out of time and not being able to give the students a chance to ask all the questions they had, but definitely talk to your mentees about the day and the presentation and kind of what they got from it. And then the last thing I had, I shared this last time, but we track everything for the seniors. But what I wanted to share as well is the dates that our center will be open on Saturdays between 9 and 1. If you want to meet with your mentee in one of our lounges, it will be here and they will be available. A staff member will be here, so you don't have to worry about bringing out a friend or the mentee to bring out a friend of theirs. You can just come, meet in the mentor lounge. If you want to bring them a meal or anything, you're more than welcome to. We have a place to sit down and eat as well. And that is all I had. Are there any questions? Or Bob and Jim, Bob and Anita, did you guys want to add anything? All right, any questions, David, Chris, Stacy, Meredith, Jennifer?
Covered a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, yeah. I give credit to Anita. She's the one in charge of all of them, and she does way more than I could ever imagine. All right, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. You will hear the message recording stopped.